何も怖くなんてないんだ This is a place to try そして僕らきっと辛いだってを決して離さないで明日へかける Let's sing loudly We are the one for the future
Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Naruto chapter 694. And this chapter was pretty text-heavy. Got a little battle of ideals going on here, so there's a lot to break down. So this will probably be a long review. So I guess I should probably just get started, trying to get through it all faster. So Sasuke in this chapter essentially talks about his answer for what he believes a Hokage should be, okay? And he says he arrived at this answer because of how Itachi lived his life. And he goes into this and he says that the villages were created in order, they were created for the sake of peace, essentially. They were created in order to create peace and maintain it for the villagers and all the people who lived inside it, okay? And Itachi was sacrificed as a way to maintain that peace. And Sasuke uses this to say that Itachi was worthy of becoming Hokage because of all the work he did to keep the village safe. And the fact that he was not accepted by the village actually does not change anything. He's still worthy of being Hokage, okay? And he ends up going on saying that the person who should become Hokage is not someone who tries to, keep everyone happy, but instead should be someone who's capable of actually keeping everyone safe no matter what. Alright, no matter what they have to do in order to keep people safe, no matter what kind of negative feedback, no matter what kind of negative feelings they have, the villagers harbor for them, it doesn't matter. You should be able to do what it takes to keep the village safe no matter what. Because you are definitely going to have some moments where you can't have both. Okay? Alright, look at the Uchiha clan. They're a perfect example of this. Alright, these guys are going to become a threat to everyone, so we have to eliminate them. Someone like Naruto would probably try to talk to them and try to, settle it without fighting, but there are some cases where that just won't work, and Naruto's naivety might actually be a reason for why people in the village do suffer. And Sasuke sees that and he says, well, this is the kind of person you have to be Hokage. People like Itachi, people like me. Alright, that's essentially what he's saying. Alright. And it's definitely possible to see things from that point of view. It makes sense. I mean, it's you're never going to be, if you become Hokage, you're not going to always have moments where everything turns out perfectly, You always get that best case scenario. You're not always going to have cases like that. And when you don't have a case like that, you have to be able to see it and make the right decision. So it does make sense for Sasuke to see that. All right. To see things that way. But the problem comes with how Sasuke is going to try and handle all this, because he says he's going to try and handle all the hatred on his own. He's going to have it center around him, and he's just going to try and carry this burden alone, essentially. Alright? And that essentially means he's giving up on his goal of restoring his clan. Okay? Because if he's going to harbor all this hatred alone, that means you can't have anybody, and if you can't have anybody, that includes a wife or kids or your clan. So if he's doing all this alone, he can't restore his clan. Okay? Okay, and Sasuke, he says it himself here. Okay, he says in this little quote from the chapter, he says that he'd been exposed to the truth, and all of his hatred had become decentralized and dispersed away from him. Alright, and essentially, now that he has no one, it means he can bear the hatred himself, like Itachi did. Alright, however, because of that, his goal is no longer possible, and he just decides, well, this is more important than the goal then, which is strange. Essentially what he's doing is he's trying to become a second Itachi. That's exactly what he's trying to do. He's looking at what Itachi did and saying that's the way things should be done, and now he wants to become a second Itachi. And it makes sense for him to want to be like Itachi, but not in this way. Because if you recall, back in the very beginning of the series, when Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura and Kakashi were introducing themselves, Okay? Sasuke said it right there. He said, my goal is to avenge and restore my clan. He's avenged his clan, now restoring it is all that's left, but to give that up in order to unify the villages that you never really cared about in the first place? I mean, well, the irony here is that doing that would actually create an environment where the Uchiha could be restored. But because of the nature of his plan, he still can't actually restore the clan. He'd have to like do it in secret or something, like pull in a Orochimaru and go and try and create a village of his own after he gets control of the rest of the village. All right, and he'd have to try and keep this little place hidden from all the other villages, make sure it stays secret. Then he'd have to like bring in a bunch of women to the Leaf, spend a couple nights with them, and then ship them all out right afterwards. Okay, to this little village of his. So I mean, it's possible. I mean, it really is possible. It's just a matter of whether or not Kishi will go that route. All right, because with this is kind of a problem. It's I won't say it's not a plot hole. It's not really a contradiction. It's just like an oversight, I guess. But it can be written in a way where it's not actually an oversight. So I can't really have it affect the rating that much because it's possible that Kishi knows what he's doing and he's just going to find a way around this, like something like what I said. But you never really know with Kishi because most of the stuff, I've said this before probably, most of the stuff in Naruto makes perfect sense. It's just a matter of remembering the stuff from like 500, 600 chapters ago that no one actually remembers. Okay? So most of the stuff in Naruto makes perfect sense, but you get something like Kaguya, which actually doesn't make any sense and just came out of nowhere. You know, then it's just like, well, I don't know. Is Kishi going to go this route, or is he just going to keep this as an oversight? I mean, it's possible. Maybe while they're fighting, Naruto is going to, you know, say something like, "Oh, why are you doing this, Sasuke? Didn't you say you wanted to restore your clan?" You know, it's entirely possible because you know, Naruto fights usually have dialogue in them. Okay, but you know, if something is that going to happen? Who knows? All right. There's really no way of knowing. But since it is possible to get around this, I won't let it affect the rating too much, because at the end of the day, this is a pretty good battle of ideology going on here. Okay, and after Sasuke says all this, we actually get Naruto's response, right? And this was a great use of flashbacks, in my opinion. Kishi is really good when he does foreshadowing. Right? He'll foreshadow things without you really realizing that he's foreshadowing things. Well, sometimes you realize he's foreshadowing things, but you kind of forget that this stuff happened. So then he goes back and reminds you, and it's like, oh yeah, this is actually perfect for this situation. You know, he's done it before too. What was the last time he did it was when it was revealed that Sasuke was the reincarnation of Ashura, and Naruto had that flashback to right after the Five Kage conference when he was talking with all the rookies and stuff and saying, no, you guys don't do anything. I will handle Sasuke. All right, well, why didn't you do it while you were there? He was right in front of you, right? Well, no. There was something off about it. You know, back then, you know. He's just really good with his foreshadowing. He foreshadowed freaking like Obito, Rin, and Minato back in like in the teens, you know, like chapter 16, 17, some one of the teen chapters. Like it's like really freaking early on. Like he foreshadowed Naruto summoning Toad, Sakura summoning slugs, Sasuke summoning snakes. Again, all back in like before summoning jutsu was even a thing. All right, so like this dude's spot on with his foreshadowing. All right, and he showed that here. All right, these flashbacks are perfect. They essentially prove Sasuke wrong. That's exactly what they do. They prove Sasuke wrong using Itachi, all right, and it just makes Sasuke realize. Well, it doesn't make him realize that he's wrong, but it makes him. He starts to sweat a little bit because after this, Naruto actually he tries to get all the stuff across that Itachi is saying, and Sasuke just he could have said, "You're Naruto, you're wrong, and this is why." But he didn't do that. He just kind of ignored what Naruto was saying and kept repeating the same thing over and over again, stuff he'd already said, which is just stubbornness on his part, maybe. He even contradicted himself at one point. He said that He said that Itachi was nothing but the past to him. But I'm like, dude, you just said you're trying to be like Itachi. You just said like Itachi would have been great as a Hokage, and that's the type of Hokage you want to be. So how are you then going to say that Itachi is nothing but the past to you? Itachi is the reason you're doing all this. All right, so like, now he's contradicting himself, and that's that belief perseverance. Okay, belief perseverance is a term in psychology, which essentially it means that if you believe something, it doesn't matter who proves you wrong, how many times they prove you wrong. It can be what you believe can be proven to be incorrect with legit proof and everything, and you will still believe it anyway. Okay. And being if you're watching this review, it means you're probably in the anime community, and if you are, then you know this firsthand because I'm sure everyone watching this video has at one point tried to convince someone that about some type of fact from an anime they like or a manga and tried to convince them that they were right but the other person was wrong, and that person just kept saying no, 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 and just kept ignoring all the proof you threw out. I know I go through that a lot. Okay, so trust me, if you're in the anime community, you probably know about belief perseverance. All right. And that's what Sasuke's got right now, belief perseverance. And he knows too, he's well aware of the fact that the longer Naruto stays around, the bigger the chances are of him actually second guessing himself, okay, and questioning himself. So that's why he wants to take out Naruto as soon as possible. And he even admitted before, there's a scene here in the chapter where Sasuke says that Naruto's the closest thing he's ever had to a real friend. And he's admitted, if you were surprised by that, then this is one of those things that happened a long time ago that no one remembers. But when Naruto and Sasuke first fought, Sasuke actually said the same exact thing. He said, Naruto, of all the people in this world, you're probably the one I have the strongest bond with. But it's because of that I have to break the bond. All right. So he said this before. All right. So if you were surprised by this, well then there you go. It's not like it's nothing new. It's been this way for a long time. But yeah, so he knows that Naruto is a threat to him, not just from a strength perspective, but from a mindset perspective as well. So he's trying to get rid of Naruto as quickly as possible. And yeah, and at the end of the chapter they fight. So yeah. Oh, it's actually not. I thought this would be like 20 minutes. Wow. Okay, that's not bad. For a rating, I guess I'll give this chapter an 8 out of 10. It was a good chapter. It was a good battle of ideology, and you see the psychological aspects in there. Sasuke learning from the past and coming to a logical conclusion, but Naruto saying, "But no, no, no. The very person you're basing that off of said it himself that was wrong because he lived it firsthand and realized that it was a failure. That way of thinking just does not work." Okay. Then you see the belief perseverance in Sasuke. He just does not. He knows the fact that if the longer Naruto is there, the more likely he is to change his mind. So he decides to take Naruto out and start the fight. So I thought this was a good chapter. There were some problems with Sasuke's answer, but they can be solved. So again, like I said, not taking too much out of the rating for that, but yeah, it was a good chapter overall. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, and that's that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.